All right. Welcome back to the Net to Net podcast with your boys, Casey Kirsch, Sam Kelty, and Caleb Kirsch. So we're going to get this podcast started right off. It's been a big week starting on Friday, going all the way till today. So the first thing that we will dive into is the Premier League and how the Premier League started on Friday, with the first game being City versus Burnley. And then we'll segue to all the other games throughout the week. So first of all, I just want to say, hey guys, how you guys doing?
Doing well.
Winning by a fair margin in our fantasy league, so thanks to Howland, triple captain.
Week one.
Yeah, week one. I still got two people play. I could be in first behind Casey.
Casemiro's not getting the points, bro. Come on.
Bruno Fernandes, calm down. I'm not that far behind. But getting into it, Premier League's back. We're all been excited for that. And the first game was Burnley versus City. City won easily 3-0 with a sending off in the 94th minute. Haaland started off the scoring this year with the first Premier League goal of the season in the 4th minute, and then doubled his chances with a 36-minute goal. And Rodri added a 75th minute goal. How did you guys feel about that game going in?
I think they set up Burnley pretty bad here. It was the first Premier League game of the season. Man City, they have the best team in the whole league, and Haaland seemed like he was on a mission even throughout the preseason. He said that he wants to do really well again this season, and Burnley, not a top team from the Premier League, and it really just seemed like the Premier League set them up to fail and for City to just show off and flex their guns in the first game of the season. And what do you know? Haaland scores 2 more goals, and Man City got a huge win. So, I mean, what else can you say?
Caleb, how do you feel? What are your thoughts on De Bruyne leaving the game very early in the first half due to injury?
Yeah, it's something that I brought up in our Premier League predictions last week. It's just something that worries me. He's a great player. Works obviously really well with the rest of the City players for many years now. But it's something that's been concerning me, just based on some of these later games in the season. I mean, he plays pretty much every game. He talks about it with Belgium as well, but just the congestion about all the games that they're playing, and it is worrying because, I mean, he's a great player, one of the best Premier League midfielders we've ever seen, especially in our lifetime. Not seeing many of the players from the past. I mean, he's up there in that top tier of midfielders to ever play in England. So it is a shame. I mean, as not really a fan of Man City, but a fan of De Bruyne's game, I think it's kind of sad to see him, dropping out with injuries so often. Over to Haaland, I mean, we could have seen this coming. We were all expecting at least one goal from him. I mean, the guys have been a machine since Salzburg, probably before Salzburg at this point. So he's still young. Burnley did play a little bit better than I expected. They're a young team, a lot of energy. Not necessarily a new manager, but in terms of Burnley's recent history with Vincent Kompany, it's still kind of a new era for them. I think City, they just overall just dominated that game. And that tackle towards the end when you mentioned that red card, man, that looks painful. Studs up at the end of the game. It's kind of tough for Burnley, missing out on a player for next match, because they can't struggle this year. They're in the possibility of maybe going down if they get into a downward turn. So I'm interested to see what City does going forward without De Bruyne. I mean, they have good depth in those forward areas. So overall, a good game for City.
Yeah, and so with the De Bruyne injury, it looks like it's a hamstring injury, and we won't find out until tomorrow. Is when he's getting his scan done. So there is a possibility he could be out longer, or it could be something minor and could be day to day. So we're hoping for a quick recovery from De Bruyne. We never want anyone to get hurt. My question to the boys is, Guardiola played his normal people. You didn't see any of the new signings play until they came in as subs in the second half. Did you like him bringing Kovacic and Vardiol off the bench and playing a normal trusted back four with Rico Lewis at left back, Ake, Akanji, and Walker, and then Rodri, De Bruyne, and Julian Alvarez in the midfield?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start out with Rico Lewis. Couple, what was it, a year ago now? When they sold Zinchenko, it's like, what's going on? Like, he's a great player. He can really do a lot of things. He's very flexible. But when you have someone with like Rico Lewis, who's 19 or 20 years old, who can do kind of similar things, can really develop into what Pep wants. That's something that we need to look out for the rest of the season. We saw sparks of it last year, but um, when you keep Vardiol on the bench and Kovacic on the bench for the first game, I mean, it's kind of a probably a tactical decision by Pep, Pep. But yeah, I mean, when they starting those guys, I feel like they're just going to blow us away.
Yeah, I mean, go off that as well. I think this is more of a respect thing to the players that were here in the past with the Man City championship winning teams. I feel like they earned the right to start on opening day, and those new signings. Pep's obviously is just trying to integrate them into the team and everything. So I think bringing him off the bench was the right decision. Yeah, he could have went and started either one of them, but out of respect to Ake, who had a phenomenal season last year, playing as that left center back for them, as well as Akanji, who played more on the right side. I just think it was more of a respect thing for those players and making sure that they feel like they still have good standing in the team and everything. And when you bring in a player for 90 million, who's really young, like Vardiol, one of the best center backs from the World Cup, I mean, you kind of have to think that you're going to have to fight for that spot, right? And they will, but they won the championship last season for the Premier League, and I think they earned the right to start today, and I think Pep made the right decision.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think with that going said, it'll take time for the new players to integrate, and they also didn't have John Stones, so I think he went back to a more of a four back than what we were used to seeing before. Everything last year going into a three back with John Stones playing in that midfield, but I liked something that I liked that they played was Julian Alvarez and Erling Haaland together in the same team, because when you have a talent like Julian Alvarez, who's young, dynamic, played a big role with Argentina during their World Cup run. He's played a big role last year during their Champions League run and title-winning run for City. To get both of those people integrated into a team like that, it shows a lot from Pep to trust them. And he didn't miss a beat. I believe he did assist Haaland on his second goal. So he looked dynamic. But from that point, I think the real hype of this game, if you guys probably agree with me, was the Pep versus Company more than it was City versus Burnley, because of that history of Company playing under Pep for so many years.
And I just like to point out, a lot of times when these relegation teams, or not relegation, promoted teams, play against a formidable team in the Premier League, they usually give them a good fight. And I kind of was expecting City to be able to dominate the ball, because that's kind of what they do, regardless of who they play. So I wish I could have seen a little more of just, just a better excitement of a game, back and forth, I guess is how I could put it. But I mean, it's Pep, it's City. I mean, they're just so dominant on the ball, and you can't really get the ball from them for 2/3 of the game. So.
Yeah. Now shifting kind of to Saturday's games, we saw a bunch of teams play. We saw two of the other promoted teams that came up from the championship last season in Luton Town and Sheffield United, who both lost to Crystal Palace and Brighton Hove Albion, respectively. Luton conceded 4. Sheffield United only conceded 1. So those were the games in action. We also had Everton and Fulham. Was a closer game than people thought. Fulham hung in there at the end, and then kind of shifting. And then we saw West Ham and Bournemouth. West Ham um, concede late in the game. They didn't have Eden Alvarez, who wasn't expected to play. He was signed on Friday with the new signing, but should be in the next week's team sheet. And then kind of going to the earlier game with Arsenal and Nottingham Forest. Arsenal winning 2-1. We saw Matt Turner start his debut for Nottingham Forest against his former team, which wasn't that surprising due to Nottingham Forest needing a keeper. I wasn't able to watch most of the game on the West Coast, but I didn't get your guys' takes from what you saw from Arsenal.
Yeah. So, I mean, 2 quality goals. If you saw Martinelli's flick, it's just exceptional. I mean, the guy's got great foot skills. And then Saka with that left foot bend into the top corner. Unreal. I mean, world class. It's unsavable from pretty much anyone in the entire world. So those are the stunners that we saw from Arsenal. Towards the end of the game, though, Nottingham Forest grew into it a bit. They made some subs. They started getting more set pieces, and they managed to get a goal late in the game, and then almost pushed for a tie, which really would have shaken up the beginning game on Saturday. And honestly, it could have shaken up Arsenal a bit, but they managed to hold on and get that win. So, in terms of Arsenal, I think teams have figured out a little bit what they need to do with them, but still, I think they had a little bit too much quality for them, and it was good to see Turner play in the Premier League for a team. I mean, I don't know how many games he played last year with Arsenal.
5
in the Premier League. He played 5.
0. Sorry, he played 5 all competition, but 0 in league play because of Ramsdale.
So I mean, that was exciting to see. We had never seen him in the Prem. So as an American goalie, we haven't really seen much success since Tim Howard in terms of goalies. Stefan, he did break in, but not barely, not very much. So
yeah. Casey, my kind of asking you. So last week you picked Havertz as your worst signing. I believe most of us also did as well. I want to ask you how you feel how Arsenal lined up with playing, opting not to play Jorginho and playing Declan Rice and playing Havertz and Odegaard in front as 2 attacking midfielders and playing Thomas Partey as a makeshift right back and Timbers on the left. First of all, how do you feel about Havertz and Odegaard in that midfield with Rice? Because watching the highlights and watching the analysis, Havertz he stuck with him for 90 minutes, but really didn't know what he was doing out there, to be honest. He was just there.
I actually woke up early to watch this game, since that's just my sleep schedule when this game started. 7:30, but it had a delay till about 7:50 or so. But yeah, I think Havertz didn't really do that much during this game. Arsenal looked really dominant. They had 79% possession in this game, which is crazy. But yeah, the way Arsenal lined up is they basically had Thomas Partey play a right back, line him up that way, but he would kind of shift into the CDM role right next to Declan Rice, which worked out really well for them. And they were able to dominate possession that way, along with their 3 center backs. But Kai Havertz didn't really produce that much attacking-wise. And if it wasn't for a ridiculous Martinelli flick and a spectacular goal from Saka outside the box, Arsenal really didn't look that great on the attacking front. Yeah, they controlled the ball, and you love to see that from them, but Brennan Johnson could have scored in the first 10 minutes of that game. He should have scored, right? He was in on goal, tried to flick it over Aaron Ramsdale, and just went right over the goal. He should have touched it right around him. Bam, Nottingham's up 1-0 in the first 10 minutes, and they didn't really look that great in the beginning, but they got more control. Declan Rice controlled the game very well. He's a great addition to them already, but they need that attacking front. And like I said, if it wasn't for Saka hitting that crazy goal and Nketiah finishing off the Martinelli flick, Arsenal, they didn't really do much in the offensive third. Nottingham, I have to applaud them here because they played, even with 21% possession, they still played a really good game and a really good counterattacking game, considering that they lost a few of their key players. But yeah, I have to give props to Nottingham here on the competitive side, and I have to give props to Arsenal for possessing. But it's a pretty balanced game in my eyes here.
Do you think they lack that attacking going forward because they did not have Gabriel Jesus and they opted for with Gabriel Jesus being out and Nketiah starting up front, or did they have enough attacking? They just didn't take their chances.
Yeah, I think towards the end of that game, there was a couple chances that Havertz had. Piggyback off of what Casey said, I mean, he was through on goal at one point, and he managed to not even get a shot off. Though, if he would have scored on one of them, they would have called it back. He did use his arm, but regardless, I mean, he is a 65 million pound player, and before that, he was around 80 to 90 million pound player. And I don't want to just dogpile on the guy, but he needs to produce, or it will get ugly for him. Because at first it was Chelsea fans always defending him. Now it's Arsenal fans defending him, and it could get even stronger of a brigade, especially with the era we live in online. You know, I'm sure his messages are kind of full of negative things about him, but maybe he can use some of this negativity to become positive. And in terms of your question, Nketiah, yeah, he does have his good games. I think that if they do stick with him, he could bang in some goals. And obviously, he's not the main creator. Obviously, he might not even be the main goal threat going forward. With the double 10/double 8, whatever you want to call it, I think that could benefit them. Maybe try out Fabio Vieira in some games. I'm not sure how that would work, but Arsenal just has a little tweaks, and they could honestly challenge again.
Do you think going into that double 10 or double 8 leaves them more exposed, because Havertz isn't going to defend that much, and Odegaard will defend a little bit more than Havertz, but not as much as like a Rice or a Partey playing in that midfield?
I don't think it really leaves them that exposed because of that box midfield and Partey and Rice at the base, and then Timber. They played Tomiyasu, who's honestly an underrated player in my opinion. Doesn't get the love that he honestly deserves. And then they brought on Gabriel late in the game to shore up that defense. So I think they do have, and they have Saliba as well, who's a great player. I mean, Ben White. They have a solid defense and their team. So at times, yeah, they will be exposed, but overall, I feel like they will be fine with that 3 in the back, that box, and then the rest up front.
Did you like them playing Thomas Partey as that makeshift right back, and then bringing on Timber for Tomiyasu, who came off for each other? Did you like Partey playing that right back?
I did, honestly. If you can stick him there over a Ben White, I would do it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just think he brings a lot more to the game, and in terms of just being
the physicality.
He can play right back though for most of the game. He played a lot. He really of doesn't. Right, but as long as
they can. They
played more of a
3-back
the whole game, and just had Saka and Martinelli kind of play as midfielders and not wingers really. But that kind of hurt their attack because they would be doubling Saka for most of the game. And Saka really didn't have the creative chances outside of his one goal to create, which is what he normally is great at. But Martinelli, they didn't double him as much, and he was able to go through and create. But I like Partey in that midfield. I think it's going to be really hard to get through it. It's just Havertz has to be more active. And I mean, I said it last week on the podcast that he's not a great fit for this system, and it kind of showed in this week. But if he can produce, maybe create some key chances and set up Nketiah, because Nketiah is going to be good regardless. Because he's a quality striker. Whether they have him or Jesus in there, they're going to score goals. But it's how many goals, and it just scares me that Havertz is not their guy, and they spent so much money on him. And I know you brought up the fact that Arsenal fans are defending them, Kale, but Chelsea fans are not anymore, and they're all ratting on him and saying how bad he was finally because they were defending him for so long. And we'll see if there's ever a switch where the Arsenal fans are like, get rid of this guy, because they've done that before. And we'll see what happens in the future. But I know Chelsea fans are happy today.
Yes,
or
we are.
They were on Saturday. They might not be today, but
we were happy about Havertz not performing well because I never liked him when he was there. He did like one good thing, and that was score our winning goal in the Champions League. But that was it. Kind of switching gears now to the last game on Saturday. We saw Newcastle, who I'm very high on this season, against Aston Villa and Unai Emery's team. So the score was 5-1, but the score does not reflect how the game was played. If you look at the team stats, Villa had 47 possession to Newcastle's 53 possession. Villa had 16 shots, 6 on target to Newcastle's 17 shots, 13 on target. And then you look at those stats, 5 corners for Villa, 6 corners for Newcastle. The game was pretty even, but you saw Newcastle kind of finish their chances compared to what Villa did. It was 2-1 going into halftime. There was an injury with Tyrone Mings who got stretchered off, unfortunately, so that made Unai have to change up everything and sub in Pau Torres early, who is a new signing from Villa. Tonali, the new signing, started off the goals in the 6th minute from assist from Anthony Gordon, and Diaby, Moussa Diaby from Villa equalized from an assist from Ollie Watkins, who I have as the most improved player. He played very well. And then Isak from an assist from Sven Botman, put them ahead 2-1, and then Newcastle kind of just ran away with it with Isak scoring a brace. Callum Wilson came on with Harvey Barnes. They combined for a goal, and then Harvey Barnes, the new signing, scored the 5th and final goal in the 90th +2. I kind of want to get your guys' takes on that from my side of the view. It looked even. It was just Aston Villa could not finish their chances yesterday, but Newcastle could.
Yeah, I think Newcastle is just a really solid team. This game was not supposed to be a 5-1 type game. It was a lot closer than it shows on the score sheet, but like Sam said, a lot of the stats were a lot closer, and they backed that up as well. But Newcastle, I mean, they just have good players in every single position. Like when they were bought out, and they had the richest owners of any team in Europe, like they are in the Premier League at least, but we all thought they were going to go splash. They're going to go buy these big players and everything. But what do? They bring in some players for cheap. Yeah, they just brought in Tonali for about 70 million, but that's like their biggest signing, and it's like they just have been building good players in every single position. Now they just have a great overall squad, unlike these other teams that just have stars. Newcastle have built in the team mentality in their team, and Isak really is just a great focal point, target man up top there, and he finished 2, and he's going to continue to do a lot more, just like he was doing last year.
Yeah, so I mean, just piggybacking on a little bit. One person that really doesn't get talked about as much is Callum Wilson. He at one point could have had another goal for Newcastle, but due to the ball being a little bit behind him, it was a little bit tougher of a finish. Imagine that game is 6-1. That's even worse than we would have ever guessed. I mean,
it's already crazy that it was 5-1.
No, right, and they had a 2-on-1 with the goalie, and they managed to not score that goal. Newcastle, I'm pretty high on them as well. I think they're going to be good this year. They were linked to a lot of people and just managed to get Tonali, but their midfield is one of the best in the entire world. Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, and those two alone are unreal. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see how the rest of the season goes for Newcastle.
Did you think that Villa missed the playmaking of Buendia, who earlier in the week tore his ACL, so he's out 6 to 7 months? Do you think they missed that creativity off the bench? Yes, they brought on Coutinho towards the end of the game when the game was over. They didn't. They opted to start Yuri Tillemans on the bench, and they decided to run with a McGinn playing kind of like a left mid, left wing role with Diego Luiz and Douglas Luiz and Abubakar Kamara. Do you think those were the right decisions going into this game?
I think they needed Tielemans to start this game. I know they had some. I mean, they have good players in their midfield. They spent well. Unai Emery's a great manager and everything, but Tielemans on the free, I would start him. He's just that type of quality player, and he can create more than Douglas Luiz can, and more than Kamara can as well. But I don't know. I would have started him there. I would say they definitely missed out on some playmaking due to that injury that you just brought up. But overall, they created chances. They had opportunities to score. They just didn't finish, and it's going to be that Ollie Watkins needs to score. He needs to step up. Diaby had a goal. He had their only goal, but he needs to step up a bit more. McGinn, he showed his quality over the past few seasons. He's been a staple for them, but it's just they got to finish their chances, and they had 6 shots on goal. I mean, and they only finished one of them. So I just think it comes down to finishing, and their defense wasn't horrible. I know they gave 5 goals. It's hard to say, but like they have a good defense, regardless of what the stat sheet says. They have one of the best goalies in Europe, and I mean Martinez. But yeah, I think they just need to finish their chances, and they'll have a good season. So.
Yeah, I think you both put it on. I think that Newcastle has an all-around team. I think if they can find someone that can play that left back position, like they've been playing Dan Burns there, if they can find a true left-footed center outside back, I think they would be even set. I know Trippier can play over there, but if Trippier moves to the left, they don't really have any coverage on the right side. Which we've seen him play on the left side before due to injury last year, and I hope they make a splash in the transfer window, but before it ends at the end of August, because I think Newcastle, if they can lock down the left back, I think they'll be set for going forward this season. I have high hopes for them. I predicted them to be third in our Premier League predictions last episode. So I just think they're a fun team, and like you mentioned, Caleb, Joelinton, Bruno Guimaraes, and Sandro Tonali are honestly probably one of the best midfield trios in the Premier League right now. And Joelinton probably, honestly, out of all of them, coming to play as a striker and switching to a different position in the center mid, I think is a huge move for him because it helps his career, and he knows that there are better strikers than him on the team, and he's just trying to fit in where he needs to, and that engine he has fits their midfield.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he told me a couple years ago that he would be starting still on Newcastle at center mid, and they're honestly could make a charge for top 4, top 3, top 2. I mean, maybe top 1. I don't know. I mean, we're all pretty high on them, I think. I mean, if they could consistently play like this, if they could consistently play like this, who's not to say that they could? We've seen crazier. Yeah. We've seen crazier things.
Pep is one to say that will never happen. I'm the one.
No, we've seen Leicester win the league in a Pep Guardiola era.
We have,
so we never know what goes on. You never know what's going to happen with
oil money.
I don't see Jamie Vardy on Newcastle, dude.
Jamie Vardy could have left Leicester if he wanted to, but he chose not to. So,
see Mahrez.
Send Vardy to the MLS. We could use him.
I doubt he leaves for the rest of his career.
He definitely. I don't think he does either. I think he should have left. If he was going to, it'd be a couple years ago. Anyway, not just the MLS.
Leicester, yeah. I mean, let's get back to Newcastle. Honestly, these guys, if they can consistently play like this, where they have people like Callum Wilson come out the bench scoring goals and creating chances, I mean, they could start both of them at the same time. But I was interested interested by, I guess, Anthony Gordon starting. Last year he was kind of a shadow of what everyone thought he was going to be, but they could make the change of playing Isak on that left wing and Callum Wilson up front if they want to go for the strongest front three. So
I think what will probably happen is Harvey Barnes will start on the left wing. I just don't think he was ready to play like the start of the game. I think just because they recently just signed him, I believe he just started training with them this week. So I don't think he's been there that long. So I feel like what's going to happen is something's going to happen throughout the season. Harvey Barnes will play left wing. I think what will happen is Trippier will move over to left back, and their new signing, Livramento from Southampton, will start on the right side. Just because I think you make that signing, it would be a good signing. Yes, he is coming back from an injury that he had, so it might be a few games before he actually gets a run in, but I think he'd be perfect to play that right side center back. And Trippier, we've seen play on the left side. And not to even mention that this game, they won 5-1, and Miguel Almiron did not score or assist, and he was kept quiet.
Yeah.
He had some chances. He had some flashes here and there. Got in
Scored
behind.
5 goals.
Yeah, and they still scored. And that man had the best season last year. I believe he had 11 goals, and that's the most he has had since coming to the Prem. And he's one of those very good IQ ball players. He can get in behind a defense quick. He's fast. He makes the right decisions. And I think if he scored it, if they let him loose, it could have been even more damage. But they were able to contain some of that movement and stuff throughout the game. So now switching over to Sunday's games, that was today. I think we were all mostly looking forward to this game. I'm going to hand it off real quick for this segment to Casey because this involved two of our teams. But real quickly, just a quick dive. Tottenham did play Brentford. It ended 2-2, the first game without Harry Kane. Looked a little weird not to see him there, but ended 2-2. Wissa scored late in the game to tie it up. But other than that, it was just kind of an interesting game, but we'll dive into that a little later. But we want to get to the bigger game between our club, my club Chelsea, and Casey's club, or not Casey, Caleb's club Liverpool. So I'm handing it off.
Both of them are wearing their team's jerseys respectively.
Yeah, I didn't take it off
this game did end in a 1-1 draw. It was both goals scored in the first half. Luis Diaz scored in the 18th minute on a pretty fantastic goal, as well as Sam. You want to say it for me? Desai?
Oh, Diassi.
Okay, Diassi.
Axel Diassi.
In the 37th minute, assisted by Chilwell. Chilwell had a great game, but we'll first go to the home team, Chelsea, with Sam here. Sam, how do you think your boys in blue performed today, and do you think it was a fair result?
Yeah, it was a fair result. We had chances. We just couldn't finish them. I think the nerves, Nico Jackson, probably one of my standout of the game other than Enzo and Chilwell. Nico had a couple chances. He had one in the first half that he skied right over the crossbar. Was probably his best chance. He should have scored. I think he's just still trying to feel the game. It's his first game at home in Stamford Bridge against Liverpool, one of our arch rivals. I think he's still trying to get acclimated to the game or to the team in the league. And if that's an experienced striker like a Kane or a Haaland or something, that's a finish. But since he's also very young, he's inexperienced with those goals and that kind of like play. Other than that, I think we looked great. We played a 3-back with Thiago Silva, Diassi, and Levi Colwell, who looked unbelievable back there. I thought he played very well, especially taking that number 26 jersey from John Terry. A big shoes to fill as one of the best ever center backs to play in the Premier League, best English center back, regarded as one of the best ever English center backs to play the game of football. All around, I think it was a good game. Poch made great subs. I think my only thing was playing Mudryk. I would like to started Mudryk, but he brought him on. I thought he was going to come on a bit earlier, maybe like around the 55th minute. Because Carney, I like Carney. He's young. He's just too inexperienced, and I feel like when he's not involved in the game, he's a non-factor. He wasn't very involved that much. To be honest, I could not tell you how many times he touched the ball, because we really were going against Sterling's side, which honestly, Sterling the last 18 months has not looked good. I don't know what's wrong with him. He just has not looked good. I don't know what he was doing. His touches were off today. He had like maybe one or two good runs or one or two good ideas of passing, but that was really it. I would say Gallagher.
I think that was the only real dangerous one he made.
Or the pass to Reece James in the first that got blocked by Konate sliding in. That in the box, that was another play. But honestly, I don't know how much longer we can play him because he just has not looked the same since that move to City. I don't know if it's system, if it's coach fit, if it's anything, if it's personally, but he just has not looked great. Carney, 51 touches, 42 passes. Sterling, 44 touches, 27 passes. Did not look good. But I think losing Akunu was really big for us because we had to like kind of change our formation, change the way we played. We went more into a 3-back when I expected to play a 4-back with Akunu there. I think the signings are not done yet. But it was a good result for the first game. I was hoping Nico got a debut goal, and like you said, Chilwell played amazing. I thought he was great. He got in behind a lot. It's just Konate is one of the best up and coming defenders, and he was having a game back there. I know Kirsch is high on him. Liverpool played a great game defensively wise. This game could have gone either way. There could have been a lot of goals. Both teams had a lot of chances, just a lot of offsides and good defensive and goalkeeper play from both sides. But it's a good start to the season. It's better than a loss. We pick up a point in Poch's first game, but I think there's more signings to come, and we can dive into that in a little bit.
Yeah, we will dive into the signings in a little bit, especially with the same rivalry with Chelsea and Liverpool and the transfer battle for Moises Caicedo. But we will talk about that in a little bit. Caleb, do you think the result is fair here, away from home, going against a newly vamped Chelsea side with a lot of their new players starting? You only getting 35% possession and one shot on target. You ended up finishing that, but do you think this is a fair result? And are you happy with the point?
So to answer your question, I kind of predicted this happening. You can ask Sam. I said 1-1 was going to happen, and
I said 0-0.
Look what happened. So we draw them 100 times in a row. It's honestly, do I just not get hyped next time? In the comments, please tell me, do I even get hyped for next time we play Chelsea? Or do I just take a nap? Because it might end up 1-1 or 0-0 again. I mean, we've tied these dudes every single time for years now.
I just to say, I think it was I don't think you shouldn't have that mentality going into the next game. I think it was hyped enough because you had a bunch of storylines. You had on and off the field, and we'll get into the off the field in a little bit. But on the field, we had Salah going for his 7th straight game, opening game with a goal. We had all these new signings of Sabalasai, McAllister, Nico Jackson. We should get pumped for the first game. Yes, it ends in a 1-1 draw, but I think that happens in soccer. And we should get pumped because it is the first game of the season. We have been waiting, 4 or 5 months for this day, for the Premier League to be back. We should be excited for the first game. Maybe in the second game, depending on how the season goes, we go, okay, this game might be a dud. But we have to take the good stuff that we can take off of that, and it is the first game of the season. We're all excited. There was a bunch of ties throughout the first week, but we get to see our new players put on that jersey and play in their new stadium, play for their new team, and get acclimated to the game that we all love so much.
Yeah, valid point. I feel like it's just a little doomerism in me at the moment. being a Liverpool fan, you know. So you know, the game was a fair game. I mean, Chelsea had more chances than us. Salah unlucky to be offsides, and the unlucky handball decision that was not given for us, where Nico Jackson was playing basketball. So
hand, chest, close enough.
you
not
watch
extended.
it back. He has his hand up.
Oh, I watched it.
He has his hand
like
up.
This.
So
like T-Rex Sterling arms.
So.
Liverpool knows plenty about that.
Anyways,
so.
back to the game. Konate, like you said, he had an amazing game. Allison saved us so many times. That's why I consider those two unbelievable players, as well as Van Dijk. He's gotten a lot of people shouting at him, "Hey, why aren't you playing well? Are you over the hill?" I honestly don't think so. And yet, sometimes things happen during a game where you're constantly getting run at, and eventually someone's going to beat you. But Van Dijk was pretty solid today, and so was Konate. As for the outside backs, Trent and Robertson, they did play a good game defensively, I think. Those two do get slagged off as well, just like the rest of our defense if they do make a mistake. But Sterling, he was pretty much neutralized, I would say. Chilwell was making run after run at Trent. Eventually, he's going to get past him because I believe Chilwell might be faster than Trent. So if he gets a running head start, he's going to probably beat him in a foot race. What I was interested to see was our midfield because that's been the storyline our whole summer. And our two signings did have a good game today. McAllister playing in a deeper role than what he did with Brighton. And then Szoboszlai really has a lot of energy, and I really appreciate that because that's something that Klopp's system is designed for, someone who can, you know, get up and down and also get that ball back for us, which we really need. I will say if we did have Thiago Alcantara sitting next to McAllister, I think we would have won that game because of just our lack of possession. 35%, that's not really acceptable for our team. And in terms of Salah coming off, I was very dumbfounded by that. I found it very strange, which Klopp has done this in the past, and it kind of just leaves my head thinking, what is going on inside his head? I mean, Doak, I really like him as a player. He's a 17-year-old. Not many people know about him because we signed him from Celtic, and he hasn't really been on the scene that much. But if you give this kid a second to run at someone, he's probably going to beat them, and it could be anyone. I mean, we saw it in preseason in the Bayern Munich game. And I want to point this out as well. Two things about Salah. He is one of the most underrated passers when he gets around that box in the entire world. He does not get the credit he deserves whatsoever. As a playmaker of the year in his career in the Premier League, beating out the likes of De Bruyne, Odegaard, others who are just unbelievable passing. He is so underrated at passing. That weight on that pass, Diaz just runs in perfectly. And one thing, along with the substitution that I found really strange is how many times has Mo Salah saved us or gained us points late in the game based off individual brilliance, and we choose to take him off. It just really made no sense, and especially with his record in games, the first game of the season, I believe it's 6 in a row, and Klopp cuts that short. I don't know. I don't understand it, honestly. I really don't.
Do you think that overall today's Klopp's decision making with the subs and when he brought on the subs and subbing out Salah was not good? Do you think that there was do you think that in this kind of an atmosphere, in this kind of game, you would keep your best player on the field and then you make those subs earlier in the game? Like we saw Nunez come on towards the end of the game, just like how Mudryk came on played only 9 minutes. We saw, I believe, Nunez came on around the
65, 70?
65th, maybe 70.
Yeah.
Sorry, he came on in the 66, so that's maybe 20, 30 minutes, maybe depending on stoppage time or whatever. But do you think the subs were he made him too late.
Yeah, 100%. I would have put him on at halftime. Nunez. I mean, the guy's a freak athlete. He honestly just makes things happen. If it's good, if it's bad for the other, bad for the other team, but not necessarily good for Liverpool. If he makes things happen, I'm happy with it because we need something to happen. I mean, with Jota, he was kind of struggling a bit with his movement for a while after getting knocked down. So why not just pull him out at half? I mean, he's a great player. I love Jota as a player. I mean, he's done wonderful things for our club, but Nunez is a different breed, and if we can unleash him, like we should have done at halftime today, things can be different than what they are now. And in terms of Klopp, he didn't really have that many options. We do have a small squad right now because of the lack of investment from FSG. They choose not to refresh the squad every single summer. They just choose to wait for Liverpool fans on Twitter to, berate them constantly. And I don't know if that's the reason why he showed up to the game today, but the need for reinforcements in each of our positions is just very strong. So in terms of Klopp, Nunez should have been on a half. One thing I also want to point out, Harvey Elliott's sub could have came a little earlier because he played a great game for 10, 15 minutes, and he's someone that people don't really give credit to as well, and he's a silky baller at 21 years old, so yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing from our side is Sterling wasn't playing great, and I thought we moved Carney, Chukwuemeka to the right side and bring on Mudryk because if you saw, Mudryk played 9 minutes, but if you saw, he was getting in behind, he was making those good plays, and we almost scored off of with Mudryk in the game because of that pace between him and Nico. I think that would have changed the game up, and I think it would have helped Chelsea, and I think would have caused some problems for Liverpool's back line. But I think the game ended what it was supposed to. There was a lot of chances for both teams, like we said, but Chelsea had a little bit more, but we could not finish. There was a controversial penalty, depending on if Nico's arms were extended or not. They were close to his body, so it could have gone either way. It was close to his
body, but it was up. That's where the controversy is. It wasn't. It wasn't out. Yeah. The one in the first half, I think it was the first half, but we were offside, so it didn't really matter. That was clearly a handball. So
that was a handball. So, but other than that, I liked all the signings that played. Like Sabalasai, he looked great. I thought McAllister played decent. He looked better in the second half than he did in the first half. But I think it just took time to adjust to that, playing that center defensive role, CDM. But they really do need someone back there, if that's Thiago or if that is a different signing before the window ends. I thought Robbo was pretty quiet. I know we talked about that little off camera with Robbo being a little quiet because I really didn't see him get up the field that much. He was more defensive because it was also, I think the ball was more on the right side. On
and
Trent's
I think
side.
Klopp did that on purpose. I really do because if we had Fabinho still or whoever we had, Trent would be in that center midfield for majority.
Because yeah.
I think he said that because he's capable of so much more, and he didn't do the things that he's capable of. And it might have been because of Klopp, but I mean, he's way better attacker than he showed today, and he's a better passer than he showed today. But he was asked to sit back and let Alexander-Arnold and go forward, and then it was kind of that 3-back for them. and they didn't really have a CDM. They don't have Fabinho anymore, so it was kind of like he had to stay back, right?
If we manage to get like
Yeah. So no, go for it, Sam.
Yeah,
Last
and I
point.
thought someone that was. Oh, sorry, Casey. I thought someone that was also really quiet was Gakpo. I don't think Gakpo. I don't like Gakpo in that center mid position, and that might have to be the case because he was also playing on Robbo's side of the field in that center mid position. And if Robbo wasn't getting up that much, I don't know if that affected Gakpo in any way. I didn't like that center mid move by Klopp. I think he's you're gonna play him on the wing or up front where he plays for the Netherlands. In that situation, I would have liked if you're gonna try to do something like that, then they should have played Harvey Elliott because when Harvey Elliott came on, he changed the game, and we all saw that the ball movement and his movement off the ball was really good. I don't know if that was just fresh legs coming in, something new to the game, but he looked good and honestly, probably playing him in that midfield role than Gakpo, I think would have maybe changed up the game a little bit, so brought something more dynamic. Because I just think Gakpo just wasn't there most of the game. Like I really didn't see. Honestly, I really didn't see him touch the ball that much, to be honest. But yeah. Mm-hmm. But mm-hmm. I just think that works more if you have that six, like we talked about, and looking at it, Gakpo had only 30 touches through 66 minutes and 13 passes. That and you look at it, Sabasa had 39 passes and 59 touches, and McAllister had the most of 64 touches, 52 passes. From a midfield, you need to touch the ball a lot more than 30 times, and you need to have more passes, especially because you have that ball movement side to side going forward, because you're that middle man in the midfield between the defenders and the forwards, and you're the link up play between everything. And I just think Gakpo kind of, I don't know, lost. Or it wasn't lost, but
like he was in his element. Really,
he didn't have that
like
ball movement. That
like he wasn't the true number 9 of the team, and they put Jota up there, and it didn't seem like he was just ready for the fill into that role that Klopp put him in, and he's not really. He hasn't really played it anywhere else that I can think of, playing like a 10 almost instead of a true number 9, which is what he's used to, or even playing on the left wing. But switching gears here, Sam. So Chelsea next week faces off with West Ham, and that's going to be next August 20th. So we talked about the result against Liverpool today, and how you think that Chelsea can do better in the future, right? And how you're trying to make this European push. Are there any changes you would make to the starting lineup if you're Pochettino, and what would those be?
It's difficult just because of the kind of personnel we have. Batty Shield is hurt, so we haven't seen him. Matty Ike, who plays on the right, also didn't play because he was injured. Based off this game, I wouldn't play Sterling. I would go maybe Mudryk on the left, and then play either Carney or if Madueke is back from injury, play him on the right, because I just think Sterling, I don't know what's wrong with him. He's just been struggling the last 16 months since this move. And another one is, so Conor Gallagher, he played very well in the second half, but in the first half, he was losing the ball a lot. He was not making the correct decisions, which I was getting annoyed about during the game. But I wish we gave Audrey Santos a run during this game, because he's a promising player. He is someone that could be the future of Chelsea's midfield to play with Enzo Fernandez. So I'm hoping that he got a run in, but he didn't. But West Ham, I feel like we have a good chance against West Ham, depending on if Edson Alvarez plays, their situation with that, because he didn't play this Saturday. But I'm thinking Chelsea could be that. I think the same lineup we had, other than taking out Sterling, moving Mudryk to left wing, and then playing if Madueke is back, like I said, or playing, I don't know, playing Ian Maatson on left back, and maybe pushing Chilwell up to left wing, like a left mid, left wing back ish. So 2 left wings, because you saw Chilwell, he was getting up the field, he was getting in behind defenders. But yeah, that's who I would take.
We're talking about based on this week, right, in the game against Chelsea. Who would you start? Would you make any changes to the starting lineup? It looks like Liverpool faces off with AFC Bournemouth next week. They ended up tying West Ham 1-1, so the same result as the Chelsea-Liverpool game. If you're Klopp, Caleb, who do you change? Do you change anything with the starting lineup? And if so, what?
Yeah, I'd make 2 changes. One in midfield, one up front. Let's see. So with the front or the middle 3, I would keep McAllister in that 6, and then in terms of Bournemouth, I feel like we will dominate the ball, especially at home with our crowd. Easily, probably the best crowd in the Premier League. So we got Trent and McAllister next to each other. I would slot in Curtis Jones next game. I think he's got something to prove. And towards the end of last year, when we did play that box midfield, he was able to get in late and get at the end of crosses or take shots from outside the box. I think he has something to prove this year, especially with these new signings. If we give him another run of games, I feel like he really can make a difference. And then I would start Darwin up front. I think he deserves a start based off of the short cameo he had at Chelsea, and I could see him giving it to Gakpo, just because I think he wants that central position to be able to pick up that ball and distribute it, whether that's to Szoboszlai or to either of the wings. So that's what I would change, but I think Klopp will go with the same midfield and play, or not. He will play Curtis Jones, and then he will play Gakpo up front. In terms of the defense, I don't think we need to change anything. And then goalie, we have great goalies, so keep that.
Do you think that there's a possibility that he runs out the same starting lineup? Yeah, because I know he played Gakpo in this weird left cam spot, and he's not really played there before. And Sam and I were just talking about, like, he hasn't really had that chance before to play in the midfield. He normally plays in the left wing or the striker position. Now, barring you guys sign a number 9 the next week and he plays, do you think he starts the same? I mean, could he start the same team as this week?
Yeah, I really think he could do the same team this week, and I also could see Harvey Elliott coming into the squad, maybe. But Gakpo, yeah, he has played there a couple of times, and it has worked out for us. but that is if we are playing that box midfield.
Hey, Sam, if we want to switch over to you, I know you had some more questions.
Yeah. And kind of rounding out the Premier League talk with the games, we have United versus Wolves this last game. And with all of we can keep it quick, but all this stuff with Wolves circulating, losing Lopetegui, and 48 hours before on the eve of the Premier League season starting, would not bring in a lot of signings. Do you think this is going to be a cakewalk for United tomorrow?
I think United are set to win here. I bet they'll win pretty big. I know they have a lot of their team coming back, just hungry to just get some first team football again. And I know that I know Rashford is looking to show off that why he's one of the better players in the Premier League, and he showed that quality of goal scoring last season. And I think he has more to his game than just goal scoring. I know he didn't really do much playmaking wise last year, but I know Manchester United brought in a few more signings, including that new striker. I don't know if he's playing this week, but I know he will be in the future. But I think Rashford's really just trying to cement himself as one of the top players in the Premier League, whether it be goal scoring, playmaking, making runs in behind, or just being a take-on player. He's got all those skills to do so. But I think a lot of what he's not been able to do is because of the other players on the team, including Bruno Fernandes, who is more of their playmaker when it comes to going forward. But I think Man U are set to win here. I think they'll win by 2 or 3 goals. They just have too much attack, and Wolves have lost too many players, and they don't have the attack anymore either. They just lost their club captain, Ruben Neves, who is obviously the biggest part of their team over the past couple seasons, and they just really don't have the quality anymore. And your prediction, Sam, of them going down is looking better and better as the weeks go on. So we'll see what happens. I think Man U wins 3-0 or 3-1 here, and it'll be a cakewalk for them.
Do you all think that is it too early, or do you think they're still making a decision whether to include Mason Greenwood? I know with all the controversy off the field issues, being suspended by the club for about about a year and a half due to his the allegations that were on, and then went to court and was found not guilty. So he's kind of starting to reintegrate himself back with United. We won't get into the specifics of what actually happened and the things because we don't need to talk about that. That everybody who's followed soccer knows that incident, that issue that's happened. But we're kind of seeing players mixed emotions. Ten Hag saying that he wants to talk to his older players. His older players in the dressing room about whether to include him back, and with even around the club and the organization period with the women's side, with the women's team too. I know a lot of people on the women's side are split. I know a lot of people on the men's side are split. So, do you think this is the right time to introduce back Mason Greenwood, or do you think loaning him out for a little, maybe 6 months, and then bringing him back is the correct decision?
This is something that really hurts the insides to talk about because see those pictures, man. It's rough. So if this guy wasn't a up and coming young player before all this came out and his value was not very high, they would have cut him a year ago. Mm-hmm. But it's about money, and that's what I think. If he was, 30 years old, not a first team player, they would have cut this guy in a second. But because it's Mason Greenwood and, he's a young British kid, they want to get they're determining whether they should give him another chance. And I think it will be looked on negatively in the future. I don't see him really turning up and becoming the player that he was just based off of him being out for so long, how rival fans will view it. Maybe people in their own dressing room will view it as well, and especially the women's team workers at Manchester United. The cooks, the janitors, the reception workers. I just don't see how you can respect him after this, because it's something that, as a celebrity especially, you cannot make mistakes this drastic and this violent, or people will call you out. And like I said earlier, I think it's about money. They want to maybe loan him and then get rid of him after that, so they want to make more money. Whereas if they cut him, they lose all that value that they had with him. So that's my 2 cents on it. I mean, obviously, before all this, he was a player that everyone considered a rising star and someone that could honestly be one of the better players in the Premier League in the future, and especially at a club like Manchester United is very big. You have people that are out there to help you, and I understand people coming to his side like, hey, I know you, I've known you, maybe I can help you out through your time getting back into the squad. But in terms of everyone in the world and seeing this, and people that have been affected by violence and sexual assault, it's not a good look, and it could be a bloodstain on the Manchester United brand for decades to come.
Casey, do you think it's the right decision to keep him within the squad, or
I
get
agree
rid of
with
him?
a lot of the points Caleb made here, and we don't agree with if he was found. I mean, he was found not guilty in all this. We have to remember that, but we did see a lot of things that came out, and
Wasn't she?
yeah, we just
didn't
do
she
know
drop the
a
case
lot of
though?
what happened, and I think the right move is for them to loan him out. And obviously, it is all about money. Caleb is completely right with that point. They would have cut him if he wasn't a first-team player, 100%. They would have cut him if he was old, his contract was running out, or anything like that. But I think the right move here is to loan him out, maybe get him some confidence back, just in the world of soccer, in the world of football, because I think all he really needs to focus on right now is on the field, and that's what he should be focusing on, because he should be wanting to put all this stuff behind him, try and get back into form, because like Kale brought up, he was a rising star. Like, everyone thought he was going to be one of the better players in the Premier League once he got older. But I think they'll probably loan him out for 6 months, maybe, if they can find someone that wants him on loan. Maybe that's the key part. But if not, I think they'll bring him back to the squad regardless. And it's kind of sad to see, but it's about money, and that's what it's about nowadays. Is all on money. So they'll probably end up getting rid of him eventually, but not for nothing less than a hefty fee.
Yeah, and I totally agree with everybody's points here. It is all about money in the end, and they're gonna try to get, if they get rid of him, try to sell him for a profit. If not, they'll try to reintegrate him with the team. I just don't think it's the right decision. I think it's time to move on. You saw the likes of Benjamin Mendy moving on to a better place, so he can refocus on his football. He came out and said, when he was found not guilty, he came out and said that it's not about the money, because he had offers from Saudi Arabia. He wanted to find the love for football again and get his confidence back before he makes that move. So he went back to France. And Kirsch, I know you asked, was he if the charges were dropped? They were dropped by the woman, but
so it's not in a court where they're saying you're not guilty.
Yeah, he was never.
It's
he
that
never
she
got
dropped
to.
it.
Yeah, he never got to prove himself guilty. But with the charges dropped, we take it as a grain of salt, saying that's why it's so.
She let him go without having
proof,
which I believe they're still together, which that's a whole other topic. Because I thought I saw something
she did drop it, and she dropped it for some reason, whether because she still loves him or whatnot, or because there wasn't that much of a case. I don't know personally, but
I don't know either.
And the only reason I asked is because whenever I see like things that are in real life that are graphic, like blood, scabs, all that type of stuff, and when I see a picture of that, it's like I get morally invested because it makes me feel bad inside seeing something like that, especially to an innocent woman who didn't really do anything wrong.
Yeah, I believe a lot of it's been kept private between the families and the people involved, so I think they've done a good job at like keeping it like within house between the two parties. But yeah. But now switching gears from that, we can look to what's going on in La Liga. La Liga kicked off today. Actually, before we go to La Liga, I know that there's been big news in Premier League over the last 48 hours dealing with our two clubs, and I think it's time to get it down. There are two players that have been rumored to both Chelsea and Liverpool. Two center defensive mids, two sixes that play that position in Romeo Lavia and Moises Caicedo. And so, first of all, Moises Caicedo, as of about an hour or two ago, Chelsea has agreed a deal with Moises Caicedo. And Moises Caicedo will be playing for Chelsea this coming year, signing an 8-year deal with an option for a 9th year that extends until 2032 for a British record fee of 115 million euros. That equals up to around 146 million in dollars if you are not familiar with currency in other countries. How do we feel about Moises Caicedo? First of all, joining Chelsea, I'm excited. I think we needed it, another holding midfielder, especially with how our team's lining up. But what do you all think?
Together, it's going to be a great partnership between them in the midfield, and especially if you're playing that 5-2-3 with just the two midfielders. I think you need a Moises Caicedo in that midfield with the Enzo Fernandez. And he's just got a boss in the midfield, and he's hard to get past. He can win any ball in the midfield. He's a good passer. Like, he can do everything that a CDM should be able to do. Now, do I think it's a great deal? No, because 115 million, a record transfer fee for Moises Caicedo, who on the Brighton squad was great and all, but is he going to have that same opportunity to be himself on Chelsea with a team that brought in many new players, and who are all looking to prove themselves to new manager Poch? Is he going to be able to be himself, first of all? And is he worth 115 million, really? Plus a sell-on fee? Really? I don't love the business from Chelsea. I mean, I love that they got him. He's a great player and everything. All on the field, great signing. Off the field numbers, I don't really get it. I know Liverpool put in that bid for 110 million as well, which is also accepted by Brighton. But Caicedo only wanted to go to Chelsea, and isn't that ironic? Because Liverpool really, really need a six, and he could have been himself if he went to Liverpool. But I'm curious on what Caleb thinks here, because he rejected Liverpool, even though they were willing to shell out the 110 million.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. He's a great player. I mean, I can't deny it. And it is kind of like a Conte regen type situation where, his sole goal is to run and get the ball back and find someone who can take it up the field. And every team wants someone like that. I mean, you got to respect the guy. He's a great player. Do I think that his fee is worth it? Definitely. I mean, if you see Declan Rice going for that same money, it's definitely worth it. And I think him and Enzo, like you said, are going to be unreal. I mean, Enzo today, he played really well. And I think he will be able to play how Moises wants to play, because why would you not let him play how he wants to play? I mean, we saw him for Ecuador in the World Cup, even. Not even for Brighton, and for Ecuador in the World Cup. Yeah. Ecuador, great side. unlucky to not make it very far in the World Cup, but they have a great team, and he's a huge part of it. And though people say, hey, you didn't know him 18 months ago, well, he's here. So now, in terms of Liverpool in this deal, it's honestly pathetic. So when I saw FSG shell out that much money, I thought I was in a dream or something. This is not real life. I should have had someone pinch me because it seems so fake. And I did fall for the bait a little bit on Liverpool Twitter, where they're saying, "Hey, this is all just talk. He's going to turn around, come to us, blah blah blah." When a lot of the reporters were saying that he was going to go to Chelsea, and some of the stuff was false and added to create hype, which laid the grounds for me to be like, maybe this isn't the case. But the Poe's got the money. He's going to shell it out, and if FFP does not come in, I would not be surprised, because teams like Chelsea, City, they get away with these financial crimes all the time, and it's football for them, and everyone else has to deal with the rules, except certain teams, and I think that's unfair. On its head, they spent $800 million and only sold off 100 something in 3 windows, so that's 700 right there. I don't think that's very fair, where teams like Everton and Wolves are having to be affected by financial fair play when they're at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of the stature and quality of the Premier League. I just don't see how that's fair. And me being a Liverpool fan defending Everton, you won't see it very often. So in terms of that, I'm frustrated. I think FSG is crapped all over this transfer window, because they took out a huge loan to get Szoboszlai, so they didn't even spend their real money for that. They're going to have to pay that back down the line. And they haven't filled in any of the other positions that we needed, like the DM and a left-footed center back, preferably a young center back. But I will take people at this point, because FSG have just shown their incompetence for the X millionth time, and I'm honestly sick of it as a person who has grown up in the FSG era, being young person, seeing some horrific teams, some mid teams, and some unbelievable teams. Not that long ago, we were challenging for a quadruple, and then now this is what we have to deal with in terms of FSG. Total incompetence, and I hope they're out by tomorrow.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, Liverpool had it, and with all this information going on, I think it was hyped up. They hyped it up. People were saying this is the Caicedo Derby for the players, the Lavia Darby. But yeah, I think Liverpool needed this signing, and honestly, for me being a Chelsea fan, I think I did go through the 5 stages of grief in like 30 minutes with this deal. Waking up on going to bed Friday thinking Caicedo, it's over, Caicedo's not coming, and then waking up Saturday seeing now Chelsea are back in it, Liverpool are still in it, who knows what's going on, and then waking up this morning, and then finally we already know what's happening, Caicedo's coming. But yeah, it's glad that it's over.
You talk about FSG, they're not willing to spend any money and everything. They put in this $110 million bid for Caicedo. Is the move to pivot for Lavia now from Southampton? And if it is, how are they gonna spend the money? You just said they don't spend money. So what's Liverpool's plan here?
We don't have. We don't have a plan. We never have a plan any transfer window. And Sam was just talking about the 5 stages of grief. I don't have the other 4. I just have anger, and then random moments of excitement that just last for like a day or two, and then it's back to, linked FC, interested in FC, inquired about FC, where we don't really follow through with anything that we go towards. It's target after target. and they won't go for more than one target at one time. That's the other problem. I've seen reports. Oh, let's go one target at a time. It just wastes time, and it allows FSG to say, oh well, the window's over. We'll just save all our money and go spend it on the Red Sox or whoever they want to do. And it's honestly shambles. I don't want Lavia at this point. I would rather just go for someone else because Southampton's going to offer some outrageous fee. And honestly, apparently Chelsea are in for him as well, and I don't know how that's possible.
What about Tyler Adams, Caleb? Do you think Tyler Adams for a $20 million
unlimited
clause,
spending that they have? Yeah, sure, I would take that for sure. I think Tyler Adams would fit our team good. Honestly, I have been thinking about it in terms of if we sign Tyler Adams, which we haven't really been linked with him, and we'd probably blow it on that transfer as well. But I could see that double pivot working because of the flexibility of both Trent and Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams at certain times in his career has played in a right back, inverted wing back type form, and I think that could work for him, especially if Trent were to get injured and we had Stefan Bajcetic or Thiago fill in that 6 role, Tyler Adams fill in that right back role, because I'd much rather have him at right back than Joe Gomez starting for us. So, yeah, I would take Tyler Adams. I'd also take Amrabat, but it doesn't look like we're going to get him. I mean, we just need someone to accept us first, and then we send the money. I don't know how we are just now learning that, but, yeah, the FSG spends money. It is kind of a sham because they make a huge percentage of the money that they spend back, and we freed up around, I believe, you guys can fact check me on this, but I believe it's over $40 million in salary from all of our outgoings, and that was the whole excuse for many, many years. Hey, we have a huge wage bill after the Champions League win. Oh, we have a huge wage bill. We can't spend. We can only spend on 2 people or whatever it was. And then we win the Premier League. Oh, we have a huge wage bill, so we haven't really gotten rid of anyone, so we can't spend. And now that we have, our two captains from last year, Fabinho, I mean, Ox, Keita, Firmino's on a lot of money. All those guys gone. I just don't see what the problem is with, just trying to get people. And it's the whole Caicedo thing just shows how we don't have a plan. Yeah, it was a great idea, and I was all for it 100%. But you gotta have personal terms with someone before you even bid, because after that it's just an embarrassment. I mean, it's honestly a laughing stock, and Liverpool fans around the world are going to be pointed at and saying, your club doesn't know what they're doing, and it's all because of these idiots in Boston who just sit around, watch their baseball games, and don't even. I mean, today was the first time I'd seen Henry go to a game since maybe 2019, and then the other time I think it was around 2010 or 2011 that I ever seen him at a game.
Do you think
so
they're one of their excuses
honestly,
is that you're not in the Champions League this season? You're not bringing that extra revenue. That's why you're not spending all this money, or is it just because they're stingy?
No, no. They are stingy.
Right, but you're not bringing in the revenue
for the
this
past
year.
5 years.
Is that why they're not spending that extra money? Is that it?
No, because we've seen their behavior when we do have the money, and they choose not to. And Liverpool fans are not the only ones who have called out FSG recently. The Boston Red Sox, there was an article recently that I was reading, and they were talking about how the FSG group has turned the Red Sox, a wildly historic baseball franchise, has such a great history, into a underdogs team. And I just worry that might happen to us with the lack of investment in the long term. I mean, with our better players now aging as well, if we don't kick into gear and get a new player for each position at the end of this year, when those guys like Salah, like Van Dijk, like Allison go, we will be screwed, and we will become the team that we used to be.
Seems like Liverpool's playing a bit of Moneyball here, just in baseball terms, just like the Red Sox are. But yeah, just switch. It seems like you're playing. It seems like you're playing Moneyball because you're looking to spend low and just like you did with Salah and a few others. But just switching gears. So Mbappe. Big news here.
I just want to say one more thing.
Might re-sign with PSG now that the Ousmane Dembele deal is done. Sam, I know that you've been hoping for Mbappe for the last however many years, 3 years or so. It was reported that he would want to go there on a free next year. But apparently new reports came out that Mbappe is willing to stay this season. He's been reintegrated in the French team, and he's willing to negotiate a contract extension, meaning he will not be able to go to Real Madrid on a free. With some reports even going as far as saying that people, or PSG telling Mbappe that people will lose their jobs if he leaves on a free. So Sam, what are your thoughts about Mbappe staying and him possibly not going to Madrid and signing a contract extension?
So I'm torn. I think Mbappe should come next year or this year. Honestly, at this point, I could care less if he came this year or not. If we have to wait, that's fine. Real Madrid just played on Saturday, a 2-0 win over Atletico Bilbao, and we looked fine without him. Bellingham played great. Rodrigo played great. Vinny looked good in certain areas. Real Madrid signed Jose Lu for this kind of gap before Mbappe comes, if he comes. Honestly, at this point, I don't know what he's thinking. I know Mbappe is really good friends with Ousmane Dembele. I caught some of the game, the 0-0 draw on Saturday, and Mbappe was sitting next to Dembele, and they were smiling and laughing. I know Mbappe said he likes the recruitment of Ramos coming from Benfica as a striker because that gives them that typical number 9 that they haven't had since Cavani. And then PSG is showing that they're willing to kind of build around Mbappe again with the likes of Neymar, who recently is probably on his way to Saudi Arabia for 2 years with a 2-year contract on the Al Hilal. But Real Madrid have other options that they need to settle with. Recently with Eder Militao yesterday tearing his ACL, which will be out for 6 to 7 months. And Thibaut Courtois, who also tore his ACL 2 days ago, which is a bummer for us. Real Madrid. Bad week for us. We did. Oh yeah. I think the win helps it a little bit. Yes, we're bringing in Kepa. Kepa's coming in on a loan with no obligation to buy or mandatory buy for a year, but I'm okay with the signing because it's not a flash signing. We're not paying a lot to get him. There was reports of us getting Keylor Navas, and I was watching ESPN FC yesterday, and they said, why don't they go after Keylor Navas? But I guess there's recent reports of he has some issues with some people still in the dressing room at the Bernabeu. And then Bono, they just wanted too much for Bono to come over from Sevilla. So Kepa was really the only option out there, to be honest, because Jan Summers is already on his way to Inter. Maybe Schmeichel, but Schmeichel just doesn't fit what we're doing. And all the other keepers like David Raya and Robert Sanchez are already gone. Yes, we could go get David De Gea, but I don't think he fits us. He's not very technical with his feet, and with our keepers, we like them to play with their feet a lot because you see we play a lot out of the back. We start our build up with our goalie, and Kepa can do that. We were linked to Kepa even before he moved to Chelsea. So I think that bringing in Kepa is just a good stopgap until Courtois comes back. My biggest issue is getting a center back. I'm okay trying to find goals somewhere else if we don't get Mbappe. It's Mbappe is a love-hate relationship.
It's the Mbappe cycle,
We're at the
it's like a
hating part right now.
hope, let
Soon it'll be
down,
back at the
hope,
loving.
let down, hope, let down.
Yeah, it's a reoccurring cycle that always happens. Yep. But who knows?
He might not
it's
resign
not
either.
Yet.
He might.
The
It might just be a smokescreen for publicity and everything. But Caleb, with Mbappe likely not coming this summer, it doesn't look like Real Madrid's looking to shell out the money, and Mbappe is looking to do at least one more season with PSG. Along with the Militao injury and the Courtois injury, do you think Madrid can still win La Liga?
So the first part of your question, in terms of Mbappe, I just want you guys all to, after this podcast, go back and watch the tape from before. I kind of laid out what was going to happen. He was going to flirt with Madrid for most of the summer, and then kind of go back to the PSG arms where he knows he can get the deal that he wants. Whereas Madrid, they got some big earners on their team, and with Neymar and Messi already leaving, but Neymar also on the way out, they can give Mbappe some of that change that they just they don't have to pay to those two. So yeah, I think Mbappe, he will stay, and I think it is a cycle like you guys were putting through, and I honestly feel like he does love playing for Paris, and it's. I mean, he is probably the biggest tease we have ever seen in football history at this point. I mean, it's summer after summer, and I could have been wrong, right? I could have been wrong about what I was saying, but I mean, if you don't think that things are going to change after they keep happening over and over, then you're not really serious in the analysis of what's happening. In terms of who Real Madrid need to spend on, I would not have spent on Kepa. I feel like the amount of goals that they will let in big games, like in the Champions League, it could be crucial. And especially with, we've talked about this on other podcasts with Madrid, but that lack of a true number 9, someone who's going to score you 20, 30, 40 goals in the season like Benzema was, and now relying on Bellingham and Rodrigo and Vinny to score all those goals. And then having a weak link in the goal now in terms of Kepa, which we've seen in the Premier League. I mean, he's had some howlers, and then there's some times where the ball's going in and he kind of just doesn't react. It's just like he has concrete in his shoes, or he just kind of stands there and watches the ball go into the net. I worry about Madrid, and as someone who is not someone who is a huge fan of Real Madrid in total as a club. I respect their stature and their history and everything, but they should not be going for someone like Kepa. And they could have gotten a lot better. They do need another center back because Militao is a huge loss, and Rudiger going into that spot and then Nacho filling in. If another one of their defenders goes down, there goes Nacho into either an outside back or into the center back. They just need some more cover, and I don't know if that they have someone maybe in the academy that could fill that role, or they really have to go out and spend that money. There definitely are some options that they could go for, but yeah, I would say that. And then if they can get a number 9 over the line, 100% do it. I know Carlo likes the formation that they were running, and they did look good against Bilbao, but in fairness, in all respect to Bilbao, it is Bilbao, and they don't really have that much going for them apart from the Williams brothers. And so yeah, I would say a refresher in maybe the outside backs. They did get Frank Garcia, but maybe another refresher on the right outside back, and maybe say, Lucas Vasquez, you've been a great servant to our team, but we would like you to move on and get someone who can take up that mantle that Carvalho had. Another center back, and then a number 9, because in the midfield they don't need anyone for the next couple of years. I would say even if Modric and Kroos retire this year, I feel like they would be pretty solid.
Yeah, with what you said with the keepers, my only thing is, like I said, there wasn't really much options. If you look at it, all the keepers that were available are not at the standard of Real Madrid, or they weren't available. And like I mentioned, Bono, Sevilla wanted
Bono is
they wanted 32 million for for him, which I don't know if I would have paid that. It's like 30 million euros, 32.8 in dollars. Also, he's also playing in African Cup of Nations, so that's 13 games he's pretty much gone for. I don't think getting a keeper like that works, just because we want someone that can play the full season and not miss games. And I think Bona, yes, he is a good keeper. It's just missing 13 games in the winter in January when we're making that crucial run to the Champions League. In the Champions League, we need someone that's going to be there. But Lunin looked great, but I know. And that's all I got to say about this. My last thing is, if we do get a center back, let's just bring Sergio Ramos back. He's a free agent. He's out there. Bring the captain home.
I want to ask Sam a question. So, we saw Bono during the World Cup with Morocco. Probably the second best goalie in terms of that tournament, behind Emi Martinez. Is $32 million not worth you being at the highest level when he is able to play? You know, if you go up against a Bayern Munich in the Champions League quarterfinal, and you got Kepa in goal, do you feel that it could affect your ability to win the Champions League having Kepa in goal in a negative fashion, and B, in terms of a team like Real Madrid, is 32 million even a lot of money?
For a 32-year-old keeper who's not going to play 13 games in January, when it's crucial in that time to push for the Champions League, yes, it is not worth it. Like you said, and you bring it up, if we go up against a Bayern Munich or a Man City, I think our defense will be solid enough by then to be able to keep those goals. If you saw, Fran Garcia was shaky in the first half, but he's on a new team, and in the second half, our back line looked amazing. Carvajal looked like the old self of it during their Champions League runs. Rudiger honestly slid in for Militao and didn't miss a beat. Yes, Bilbao is not the same team, is not the same stature as a Bayern Munich or City, but that camaraderie between and that connection between our back line is fun. And honestly, I'd be okay playing Lunin. Lunin looked great. Lunin, I know Lunin is more of a backup role. He's young. He's still up and coming, but I think give him a shout, give him a run.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why not play him for those 13 games, and then the rest of your games you have a very, very, very strong back line. Whereas now you have a mistake in you every once in a while that could possibly hurt your chances. And I also want to say this: if you had Bono right in these big games like City like the game like City last year, and you have Kepa in goal, that game could get a lot worse than it was before. And the soul, it seems like to me, someone who's not a Madrid supporter, Madrid's main goal every single year is to win that Champions League. And if you're having second thoughts of having one of the best goalies in the world not on your team, I just think that holds you back. And then without Militao for the entire year, you're relying on the two that you have there, and then a young Fran Garcia, and then say Carvajal goes down or something or whatever. It's a little bit shaky at the back, and I mean, that's just how I'm seeing it. I mean, obviously, I might be being a little bit nitpicky with Madrid right now, but I'm also, I will say, I do like Bono as a player, and I think he deserves to be on a team at that high stature that consistently competes for trophies, and he is an underrated player, and we saw that in the World Cup. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm being too nitpicky with Madrid. I just see a couple flaws. Like teams like in La Liga that are, mid-table and below, I think Kepa will be fine to be playing against. But in terms of the big games, like Barca away, Barca at home, Atletico home and away, the big Champions League games, I just don't see it being the best option for you guys.
Yeah. But yeah, I just my last thing is Kepa. It's a cheaper option, both of those. With Bono on his fee and then De Gea on his wages is just too much, and Kepa is the cheaper option of the two, and I think we can use that money somewhere else. I don't think we're going for the Champions League this year, but we always say we are. But I think Carlos focused more on the league this year, just because if we're focused on that Champions League, we would have gotten Mbappe when the window opened.
I think Kepa will be more exposed now that Militao's out.
Just whatever, but I think. No, because I think he's playing with better defenders, better center backs, in the likes of.
Better than Chelsea.
No,
okay.
I'm talking about I think he's playing with better center backs than Chelsea. Yes, I think he will adjust to the quality and players that he will be playing with at Madrid than at Chelsea. That's what I'm saying. I think he's playing with more quality center backs than he did at Chelsea. He played with Thiago Silva, who is a quality center back. Yeah, but he was past his prime. He's going to a team that has a prime David Alaba, at the time prime Eder Militao, Rudiger in his prime, and then Nacho, who's just a warrior, who's always been there. So I think Kepa will be fine.
All right, well, we will see going forward.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested to see his first game. Someone. So
am I.
I mean, as a Chelsea, as someone who supports both of Kepa's teams technically now, someone who's on loan to Madrid, and Sam seems a little more confident than I am, but we will see. We will see.
Yeah. Okay, now switching gears real quick. I know this is going to be a little bit longer than we usually expect, just because Premier League happened, a lot of teams are happening.
So much amazing.
So much to happen. We haven't even touched on the last parts of what we talked about. I know quickly we're gonna talk about this quickly. Is we didn't get to talk about it last week due to our Premier League predictions, and that was just focused on the Premier League. But briefly talk about the women's team. The women's team suffered a loss in the round of 16 to Sweden. Just little highlights. It was a tie game going into penalties. We lost on penalties. A few people missed their penalties in the likes of, I believe it was Rampino missed, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to think who else missed. I don't know. I think they subbed off.
So.
Yeah, it has been a week, so it is.
We did not indeed cover this when we had it fresh in our minds. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of the Women's World Cup, it's an utter failure in terms of what we have seen from this U.S. team for years. I mean, just a couple of years ago, we were seeing goals from half field, excellent crosses and heads with people like Abby Wambach and young Alex Morgan breaking onto the scene. It's just honestly shameful. And I have been a huge defender of the women's national team and their fight for equality of pay, because they have been a much better team than the men's team has for years. And now that we're seeing kind of a downturn, a rough patch for the U.S. women's national team, it's really hard to see. And I hate to, kind of dogpile on this guy, but he needs to be gone. He needs to be gone. That Netherlands game, and then not starting Trinity Rodman for some games, and then just our overall ability to play in big games, it's just been pathetic. And so hoping for the next World Cup, the women's team can get back their title, because it's something that Americans pride themselves on, is women's World Cups. And the people that have been, attacking the women's national team, it's honestly, in terms of bad faith arguments. If you talk about how they play on the field, totally understand it. But if you're out to get this women's national team just because, Rapinoe wants to talk about equal rights, equal pay, then you really don't care about this team and you just want them to fail. And I've been seeing that a lot, and I wanted to point that out on this podcast because it's a huge issue that we see where people talk about, hey, let's help women's sports, let's protect women's sports, and then the second that Megan Rapinoe does something wrong, it
was a really big disappointment that we didn't do as well as we should have in this World Cup. I know we were as the favorites again, going for a third straight World Cup win, but it didn't work out that way. A lot of our core from the previous two were aging or are not with the team, whether it be injuries or retiring. I think going on your point about Rapinoe, though, Caleb, is a lot of people were upset that the interview right after the game, she was asked about what was your favorite memory, because obviously this is her last game as for the U.S. team and professionally, right? She's retiring. And the question was from the reporter, what was your favorite memory for playing with the U.S. national team, right? And she could have said any of the moments. She's probably the most decorated or one of the most decorated players for the U.S. women's national team ever. And she won 2 World Cups. The U.S. team is more decorated than pretty much any other women's national team. They're amazing. I could go on and on, right? But what she said is which is what made people upset, because she could have said any of these moments, but she said equal pay. Right, and equal pay is great. I think we can all agree on that. The women's team have been better than the men's. They deserve to be paid well, right? But all of the moments you could have said about your whole career, about all of the time, the special moments, the special goals, winning, lifting those trophies, she says equal pay. I think people said it shouldn't be about money. It should be about your career, and I think people were upset about that.
I think with that situation is how it was reported, how it was asked, because I think that is I'm not saying that it's not
a great moment.
Because it is a great moment for women in sports with getting that equal pay. My only thing is, if I'm the reporter, I ask 2 questions. What is your favorite moment on the field? And what is your favorite moment overall? Because I can see how some people have taken that comment and spun it. Because yes, like Casey said, you've lifted so many trophies, you scored so many goals, you've helped our U.S. team through so much with winning World Cups, winning She Believes Cup, scoring unbelievable goals, contributing on the field, and then you have those moments of helping get equal pay, spending having that camaraderie, that team bond that you have with some of those players. Like, we might not see some of these players play anymore. We always saw Julie Ertz retire from the national team after they lost. We saw, like we said, this is Megan Rapinoe's and probably Kelly O'Hare's, maybe Alex Morgan's last ever time wearing that U.S. jersey. There's so many more, and I think people just wanted to hear that, special moments that making you feel warm and fuzzy, kind of thing. Oh wow, I can see that you've done so much for our country, you've done so much for your national team wearing that jersey. Yes, equal pay is great, but I don't think that's in that moment of that question was asked at the time when they just lost, and I don't think she should have answered it like that. Maybe a couple days later
too, and
say
she
that.
Didn't have a great World Cup
say
either,
that now.
So I mean, I think people were just dogpiling on that fact. But the fact that she had so many great moments with the U.S. women's national team, and she accomplished so much. She's probably one of the best of all time for the women's national team and just in club in general. But the fact that she said equal pay is her favorite moment, it's just really, you could have said any of these moments and you say equal pay. Come on, off the field, seriously.
I just want to say something. So when I kind of heard her say that, it first irked me a bit.
Yeah, exactly. There's another thing.
She won the Ballon d'Or. She could have easily said that as well.
Yeah, I would have said the Ballon d'Or.
But here's how I thought of it after that, right? So she's obviously been a leader on this team for, I don't even know, at least 8 years now. At least 8 years now, right? And so maybe think of someone that you may know who is in a job, maybe like a union rep or someone like that who their job is to look out for the rest of the team, right? So I could see her spinning this as, this was my my best moment, being a leader and helping everyone at the same time. If she would, maybe she wanted to make that last interview that she has as a U.S. women's national team player to be an advocate for all women who are playing on the team and then all women who are playing in the future. So I see your guys' points. I completely understand it, because if you ask someone a straightforward question, they're supposed to answer it in a way that goes along with that question. But I do see it in a way of, I'm a leader on this team, and I put my heart and soul into doing this, and I got a lot of slack for it, and a lot of people do not like me because of this reason. And I paved the way for the future of women's soccer. I think that's honestly very brave for her. And the question, the other question that she had, about her penalty,
a sick joke,
she called it
like
something of a joke or whatever. It's sick joke, yeah. Which, maybe she was just.
Well, I think it's because she was such a great player, and her last moment
didn't
was
even want
missing
to think
penalty,
about it anymore. Maybe
that it is a sick joke, really. She's right with that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that. She has her jersey in museums. She has, countless girls look up to her as I think star.
Going along with your point, though, Caleb, I could use that same logic by saying she created the. She was such a leader, right? She created the culture of winning in the the women's national team. So shouldn't she be a leader and try and continue that winning, even in her worst moment? Probably one of her worst moments of her career. She could still say, "Hey, we did this. I believe in this team. I believe in their future." Right? The best moment was winning those World Cups to show those younger women players that, hey, this is the peak. It's not about money. It's about the passion of the game. It's about winning for your country. That's a great part is getting paid equally, and we all agree that they should be paid fairly. But winning is the most important thing in soccer, and that's what I thought she should have said, is winning the World Cup, whether it be her first or second, it didn't really matter at that point. Just something on the field where she can show her teammates that this is the most important thing. Yeah, we had this big beat, and it was great, and it'll be for all the future generations for women's soccer. But winning beats all. That's what I think.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, and we forget that. I see that's how it could be interpreted, and we forget that it's not the first time that we've had someone say or say something that could be controversial that people aren't gonna like. We had this incident. I forget when it happened, but with Hope Solo calling the Swedes cowards after they lost to the U.S. after the U.S. lost to them, and then everybody blew that out of proportion, and then Hope Solo is no longer with the team, who was arguably, other than Brianna Scurry, was our best goalie to ever play in the U.S. women's national team. And we've seen that, and I think
agree. There's
a time to say it.
There was a time,
but I didn't think it was that time, and I just think it was emotions. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was high on emotions, because you look at those two interviews, both after big losses to our rivals. You would say our rivals are Sweden. Yeah, we have so much history with them. Our coach used to coach. Our coach coached us and then went to them and coached that and beat us. I forget her name. And then Jill Ellis. I think the tensions were just so high, and I don't think their emotions were really in check at that point, because they were coming off that intense game. And we've all been in those intense games where we come out and our emotions, and we might say something or might do something that isn't in our best interest, because we're in that state of playing with that intensity, and we haven't cooled down yet. And which I think that's what happened. But going back to the other side of that, and the actual on the field, I love that you brought up Vlatko Andonovski. That it's time for him to go. I think it is. I think he stayed a year too longer. We saw issues going in. I think a lot of his substitution, a lot of the personnel he played, Yes, it's because we didn't have the likes of Tobin Heath. We don't know if Tobin Heath is going to come back. She's had an injury. Kristen Press is young enough, but who knows if she's going to be back. We also saw the likes of Mallory Swanson was injured. She didn't play either. We lost our Sauerbraun, who was rocking her back. And then we have this big build up that we're playing. Julie Ertz is returning to the team. She's going to play the 6. We have a great center back pairing in Naomi Gurma and Allison Cook. And then we don't see Allison Cook play at all, which she wasn't hurt. I don't know why she didn't play, but if you already knew you were going to play Ertz in the back, then why did you build up the entire leading up to the World Cup that you're going to play Allison Cook and Naomi Gurma in the back? Why? You literally came out and said Ertz is coming back to play that 6 that we have been missing. And then we don't play Allison Cook, who honestly has played very well in USL football. I think we missed Rose Lavelle in the last game. She brought something. She was just coming back from injury, but she looked pretty good. We missed Sam Mewis, Kristen Mewis's sister. Megan Rapinoe, yes, she's done a lot for our team, but there's some games that she probably shouldn't have been out there. She just didn't look great. She looked a bit slower. The likes of Brits, not like Caleb mentioned, not starting Trinity Rodman in certain games, subbing her out early, playing Sophia Smith out wide, where she usually plays up front and get behind the defender and her club team. So I just think that we were hit with a bunch of injuries and our coaching wasn't great. I think we need to go out and get a new coach, whoever that is, honestly, maybe a big name like Phil Neville, who had success with the England national team, who is very good with the women's side. But I think it's time to regroup. I think we're in that rebuild of we got to look to the next World Cup as like our future going younger. I don't think a lot of people will be back. And so honestly, I love Alex Morgan. I'm a big Alex Morgan fan, but honestly, I don't know if she should be back. She did not do much. She missed the penalty. I don't think she scored at all this tournament. I also did not like the whole rotated captains thing. Pick a captain. Like, that's the one thing. You have to have a leader. Our leader was
unless you sub, unless you don't start.
Unless you sub them. Yes, unless you sub them.
You have a vice captain and the third captain. Yeah.
But when you have 3 people as your main captain and then Lindsey Horan is wearing the captain's band, if you want Lindsey Horan to wear the captain's band, just make her the captain. Don't make her the triple captain. I hate when teams make 5 or 6 captains because it makes no sense, because then who the heck are you supposed to listen to? Am I supposed to listen to Julie Ertz? Am I supposed to listen to Lindsey Horan? Am I supposed to listen to Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, like all of them? Like, pick a captain. And I don't like when they do that. I don't like Ananovsky's system. Yes, they play a 4-2-3-1, but the way that he has some of his players do certain things is annoying. Like, Crystal Dunn is good, but she did not look the same as she used to. Emily Fox, they try to do that weird what Liverpool does with Trent and push Emily into the midfield, because she does sometimes play midfield for her club team. But other than that, that's all I'm going to say on the women's side. I knew I was going to rant about them because it's been bottled up for a week. I had to get it out. But there needs to be changes within the federation, and hopefully soon. Kind of now switching off of that. I know we're getting a little bit longer, but we got to get in these newses. Quickly, we're going to talk about the Columbus Crew. Columbus Crew kickoff return to action in their MLS Cup, or not MLS Cup, their hunt for the MLS Cup against our arch rivals in the Hell is Real game on August 20th at Lower.com Field against FCC. If people don't know about FCC, that is FC Cincinnati. That should be a fun game. Both teams got knocked out of Leagues Cup, and we'll talk about Leagues Cup after this to wrap up our episode. But I just want to touch base. We lost our goal scorer, our top goal scorer, and our top assister in Lucas Delaran to the Saudi League, to El Fatin, for an undisclosed deal, but it was something around like 10 to 13 million. dollars, I believe. And we used that money on the last day of the window to get to the MLS window that closed on, I believe, August 2nd. We got Diego Rossi, used to play for LAFC. He had a great stint in LA. I believe won rookie newcomer of the year, scored a bunch of goals for LAFC. And then we got to move to Fenerbahce. That hasn't really worked out, and now he's back. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
First off, I'd like to say the commissioner of the MLS, you suck. And now I'd like to talk about Rossi because, I mean, we could have had him, Zelleron, and Kucha up front, but the MLS chose to shoot that down, which is extremely unfair because other teams are getting treated differently than we are. And it's probably because we are not as big of a market, but we've had, like 15 sellouts in a row in the league. But so I'm excited for Rossi because what we've seen with him in LAFC. He's still quite a young player. I do think as a team that's number one in goals in the whole MLS, adding even more goals. I mean, I feel like it's gonna help us out. But we do lose a little bit of Zelleron's playmaking. We did manage to get some from Gressel, who we just signed recently, and then we do have a bit of ball-playing center back from Camacho, who came over from Montreal, which I am excited to see. I haven't really seen too much of him other than when Montreal play here and there, so I'm excited. And Nancy, one of them, he's a former Nancy player, so I'm excited to see that in motion. We have seen kind of a makeshift back line, which I did think that it's done its job for the most part. In the system like we have, there are some nooks and crannies that teams can get through, but in terms of us making sure we get into that playoffs, it's crucial because the last couple of years with after the MLS Cup with Caleb Porter, we were just not quite efficient enough, not quite tough enough and aggressive enough to get that goal and make it into the playoffs, because that has to be a minimum each year if we want to be considered one of the top big boys every year. We're one of the oldest teams in the league. So in terms of Cucho and Rossi, I'm really excited to see them. Both South Americans, just like how Zelleron and Cucho were a partnership. I feel like they can hit the ground running, and what better time to do it than against FCC? We need this win very, very badly. I think a lot, seeing on the Reddit page that follows the crew, a lot of negativity, a lot of, that last game really hurt us because the Leagues Cup, in fairness, has been one of the most interesting tournaments I've ever seen and exciting. And now that my club is out of it, it's a little bit sad because I want to see us play against those top Mexican teams like Monterrey and Tigres. I want to see us play against this new Inter Miami team and the Philadelphia Union team that's still going on strong like they are in the league. So yeah, I see us competing against Cincinnati. I really, really hope we win. I really hope, because it's going to be huge for morale. We already lost to them at the beginning of this season. It was a tough loss, but we did come back against them, but didn't manage to win. So I'm going to say Crew win 1-0.
Okay. Casey, quick on Rossi. Do you think it was a steal? We got him for around a base transfer fee of about $5.63 million with a $1 million signing bonus and a 15% sell-on clause for 3 years. Do you think that was
Definitely
a steal to replace
we got him
Zelleron?
the 2020 top goal scorer for LAFC. He's going to slot in right into that Zelleron role. For only $5 million, we sold Zelleron for we assume from probably $8 to $13 million, as you said, some in that range. It was undisclosed, so there's only speculation, but we think we sold him for at least $8 to $10 mil. But going back to Rossi, he went to Fenerbahce, didn't go too well. But the MLS, he's known to do very, very well when it comes to playmaking and especially goal scoring. And with Cucho taking more of a playmaking type role this year instead of his first year with Columbus, I could see them two pairing up very well, along with Christian Ramirez, who has also been a really steady piece for this Columbus Crew side. So I don't think our attack is going to be that much better, but it's not going to be that much worse either. Zelleround was a huge loss for us. He was just the catalyst for a everything ran through Zelleround, and whether it be his great playmaking, whether it be his goal scoring, which he was the top goal scorer for us, like we're gonna miss him a lot. But Rossi's gonna bring in goals, so I'm torn on this move here. As long as we made some profit, I'll be happy. Rossi's a lot younger, so I like that too. But Zelleround is a huge loss. We saw when we played against Minnesota, we didn't have that same flair that we usually do, that same energy up top. And Zelleround was sitting there watching from the booth. Man, it really hurts not being able to see him play with us anymore. I hope he does well in Saudi Arabia, and I think the Crew really need this win against FCC just for confidence. I think we expected to go further, especially after we beat Club America 4-1 in the Leagues Cup. They were a pretty quality team as well back in Mexico, but we need this win against FCC. It's a derby game, and I think we can win this game as long as Rossi is connecting well with Cucho, because Christian Ramirez is going to be Christian Ramirez, and I'm not worried about him. Cucho, he's going to keep playmaking as he usually does, but Rossi's going to be the main focus of this game. Kale brought up Gressel. He's also being integrated into the team. Another playmaker for us, so maybe the Zelleround move won't hurt us that much when it comes to playmaking, but goal scoring, we'll definitely have the same, if not more, goal scoring because of it. Sorry, say that again?
What do you think the final score will be? Casey.
What
do you think the final score will be?
3-1.
Caleb said,
I think Rossi's going to score on his debut. I think Ramirez will score, and I don't know who else will. We have a lot of players who score every now and then, but I think Gressel will get an assist or two. FCC's really tough though. They'll get a goal in. We won't win we won't shut them out regardless. But I'm picking 3-1 because I'm confident in our attack. But I'm also giving them a goal because their attack is amazing as well, and our defense isn't.
For me, it's I'm ready to see Rossi play. I wish Rossi and Camacho played in our game against Minnesota. We should have won that game. We just could not finish our chances and could not finish penalties, which is the theme of our teams that we like, cannot finish penalties with the U.S. men and women's, and our lovely Columbus Crew can't finish penalties either. But I think that bringing those guys in will help our team. I'm going to go with 4-3. If you look at the recent history of the games, last year it was 3-3, 4-3, and then this year was 2-3, 2 or what? Either way, it'll be a goal apart from each other, I think, or it'll be a tie. I'm going 4-3. I just think Budapenza, Brandon Vasquez haven't missed a beat since losing Brenner. Luciano Acosta looks good still. Vasquez has picked up since coming back from Gold Cup, which is scary. Like you said, their offense is good. They still play a 3 in the back, but Arias is very good on the right wing back, and their back line looks steady, and their keeper is pretty good. Noah Centeno. But I think the Crew win this 4-3. I think a last-minute goal by Christian Ramirez is due for us. I think Rossi scores on his debut, and I believe Cucho bangs one in, if it's a penalty or not. But 4-3 at home, we win it behind our crowd, which could be exciting. I'm looking forward to watching us play again. We haven't watched us play since the League Cups. And then kind of our last topic, Leagues Cup, segueing to that. Yes, the Crew are not in it anymore. They lost. So we're looking at, I believe, we are in the semifinals with two games to play on Tuesday night, with the first game being The later game is, I believe, the Inter Miami versus Philadelphia Union. I picked the Philadelphia Union at the beginning of the tournament to be the most to handle Inter Miami. I also think that Philadelphia at the beginning could win this all. I think they have the team to do it. They won in penalties against the not the penalties, but they won in the last minute against Quintero 2-1. I think Philadelphia Union, the way they play, can stop Inter Miami. I know Inter Miami has the attack of Messi, Sergio Busquets, and Jordi Alba and company, and we saw that last week against Charlotte 4-0 win, which we all probably saw coming. I just get your guys' quick take on that game, real quick.
I see it's for Miami winning the whole thing, and Monterrey probably will be the closest to that. I think Monterrey is a good team. They have a lot of good players, but I think just the quality of Messi and Busquets, it's just too much. I think it's too much, and I think they get it over the line. And yeah.
I disagree with you here, though. I agree with the Miami part. Miami's too unstoppable. They're going to win the whole thing. Messi and Alba and Busquets is just, you can't stop it. I don't know what any team's going to do. At Philadelphia, they might be able to do something, but they don't have the sheer talent that Miami have right now, and it's kind of crazy to see because 2 months ago, Miami were the worst team in the MLS. So I'm picking Miami to beat Philadelphia here on this Tuesday. And I'm also picking Nashville to beat Monterrey. You look at what they did against Minnesota, the team that the Crew just lost to. They won 5-0. Caleb, do you hear that? 5-0. So I'm picking Nashville. They just have way too
Monterrey
many
still
pieces.
Has too much quality.
And Monterrey beat LAFC, which is a team who I thought would have gone well against Inter Miami. That's who I picked. But Nashville's going to win against Monterrey. Miami's going to win against Philadelphia, and Miami is going to beat Nashville to win the Leagues Cup and to have Messi be the top trophy holder of all time in the MLS. It's too perfect for the MLS. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen. I don't know what else to say.
We will be there. We will be there to watch that match. Not in person, but we will be there watching it at our TV.
Yeah. Not in person. No, yeah, I think I agree with Casey on the Nashville part. I think Nashville is better than Monterrey overall. Yeah. I think Nashville, and with Nashville playing at home in that atmosphere in that city of Nashville, it's doomed. I think Monterrey, to be honest, Monterrey got lucky against LAFC. If you watch that game, one bad call that went Monterrey's way kind of started the run to beat LAFC, 3 goals unanswered, which is impressive on an LAFC team. And you forget that Carlos Vela didn't even play. He was injured. He came out in the last game, that helped Monterrey's chances. And you saw the likes of the substitutions they made and the decisions that happened with the first foul that led to their first goal. And then Monterrey just turned the tides quickly in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, which – LAFC should have won that game. I don't know what they were thinking. If you watch that game, Chiellini towards the end was just jogging around. He wasn't very good. Honestly, I would have subbed him out earlier. You bring out the likes of Kelly and Acosta late, where you should have kept him in, and some of these players. But yeah, they had tired legs. With Philadelphia Union, on the other hand, I think the train ends here with Philadelphia. Inter Miami have not played a team like Philadelphia that plays the diamond center mids that, and I'm talking about an MLS, like with the MLS team. I know Messi and Busquets and all of them have played it, but Inter Miami have not played a team like Philadelphia Union, a winning team, a team that has been to a finals, that have came like inches away from winning it against LAFC last year. A proven team. If you look at the teams like Charlotte FC, yeah, they're a decent team, but they're not Philadelphia Union Standard. FC Dallas was probably the closest to who they played in that championship level, and kind of is closest, but isn't there yet. You look at Orlando City; they obliterated them, and then you look at who else they played after Messi got there. I just think Philadelphia with Jim Curtin, great manager, will get the job done with the likes. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe Alejandro Bedoya, who they've been missing all this League Cup, should be back to play that. And he's a big piece. Even if you get him in the midfield, he can control the midfield with the rest of them. So I pick Philadelphia to win it all against Nashville on, I believe the finals is on Saturday. The later game, because the third place match will be before then. So I believe that Philadelphia will win it, Nashville second, Inter Miami third, and Monterrey fourth. And with the top three going to the MLS.
I just don't think that. I just think the Monterrey hate is a little too strong on you, buddy. I think it's going to come back to bite you, like you said about LAFC game. But that's just me. I think they're a good team, and I think they're better they'll beat Nashville. So.
I just think the atmosphere of the traveling too, it will affect Monterrey. They've been traveling all tournament, and it's. I think it's going to come down to that, and I think Nashville at home in their in Nissan Stadium. Monterey,
they've been traveling the whole time.
I think it will be a factor, and I think Nashville will not make the same mistakes LAFC made, and they will have Mukhtar. They have Mukhtar, and in Nashville, they trust in Mukhtar, so I would trust Mukhtar to get the job done. But yeah, that rounds up the latest episode of our Net to Net podcast. I know we haven't released any basketball of recently, but we plan to once we get closer to the season, just because there's not a whole lot going on like soccer, how there's so much going on with transfers and scores. It's hard to keep up. With basketball, it's like you have free agency and then there's a drop off until the season. But we'll be back soon with NBA, and we'll let you all know in the social when those start dropping again. But this is our Net to Net Soccer podcast. You guys have anything else before we end it?
But subscribe, give us a like, and follow for more. Peace.
Yep, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.